Things get here will be fine. Yeah. Five. Current population. Just to update everybody, we're just waiting to establish quorum. Even though it's 9 o'clock, we have to establish by population and tonnage. So. Take public comment. Okay, let's get it. We're going to get started. Take public comment. Okay. All right, we're going to call to order the Solid Waste Disposal and Recyclable Materials Processing Authority of Broward County Solid Waste Executive Committee meeting of January 17, 2025. It is 9 o'clock. If you would, please call the roll.
Good morning, everybody. Hear me? Good morning. Chair Ryan.
Here, present.
Vice Chair Furr.
Here.
Member Shuham.
Here.
Member Horland.
And Rob.
Member Mateo Bowen.
Here.
Member Mike Ryan. Are you already here? Sorry. I got to get that fixed. Member Dunn. Member Rydell.
Here.
Member Mead. He called. He's not going to be here today. Sorry. Member Cagano. Member AJ Ryan. Member Newton. Member Glassman. Member Israel. Member Bright Cruz. Member Geller.
Okay. All right. Our alternate can count. That gives us 6, and we're over 401. All right. We have a quorum. If you would, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to forego any welcoming comments. We have an enormous agenda today. I'll turn to my co-chair, vice chair, Commissioner Furr. Okay, Furr. Great. Public comment. Jim Lasky. Last is first, right? Next will be Stephanie Pearson. So you can get ready. Nice to see you, Stephanie. Stand behind, so we'll be able to go pretty quickly. Mr. Lasky.
Good morning, everybody. Jim Lasky, Southwood Branch. You know, I don't know if you guys recall when I first showed up, the place that I explained to you, I was going to investigate the whole problem through economics.
Can everybody hear? Oh, there you go. Okay, now I hear me. All right. I've found out a lot of interesting information when I first came up. There's a lot of technology that's already been developed to the point to where in 2011, okay, and I've got a press release here from our trustee, Waste Management, opened in Pittsburgh, okay, a $40 million recycling plant with all the technology that I've been yelling about. Where are we going? Where's our investigator, our engineers, and all the people that are supposed to be coming up with solutions to this problem? It looks like we've solved the problem in a large corporate way, and they're not the only one. Waste Connections, okay, and Republic Waste are doing the same damn thing. I've told you about state-of-the-art facilities that you could go visit. I believe it's worth a trip now. I don't even know much about corporate governance as far as the Securities and Exchange Commission knows, but you're supposed to put out information based on your earnings, based on the size of the earnings in proportion to the size of your company or your profit. Okay, well, maybe I got that a little bit crazy because I don't do that for a living. I invest for a living. And I got copies if anybody wants to read it while we have this meeting and maybe use it for some questioning later on in the evening. But here we go, if it's okay with you all.
Right, so you can just leave them there. We'll collect them, leave them right here. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lasky. Appreciate it. Stephanie Pearson, followed by Elisa Jones.
Is this
so
on?
Just come on up so you'll be ready to go. Thank you.
Hi, Stephanie Pearson, League of Women Voters of Broward County, and good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you first for agreeing to have a school board official member, not member, but representative officially at your meetings. Our organization did send a letter of support to the school board in recognition of the importance of doing this and getting students engaged in the effort. I have a few quick technical questions. One is, I've heard the term ex officio mentioned for this and the term liaison. So I don't know legally, or what you're using, but I think we should be consistent because I've seen some letters saying one thing and the other, a technicality. The other thing I've seen is that we're referring to this group as BSWA, but I also saw SWABC. Right. So I think we should be consistent. So, okay. I took a look at the white papers on the website, and at first glance, it seemed to me that there was it was incomplete in the sense that it did not address the fact that the state, well, first of all, it didn't seem to mention the 2008 state preemption law on plastic wrapping. There are some items that are not included in the preemption, but I just learned this morning that I didn't delve deep enough and that there was a drop down and somehow these things are mentioned. So the other thing to make sure that's in there is that government property and government-sponsored events are not part of this preemption law. In fact, some local governments have banned single-use plastics on their property and at their events. And 22 Broward County did that for styrofoam. So, and some cities have. So this is important that we emphasize this because it would go a long way to educating the public and reducing waste. The other point I want to bring up, and I don't know that this body has the authority to do this, but we should follow Miami-Dade's recent resolution to eliminate single-use plastics at county-owned venues. They're doing it at all their county-owned venues. I'd love to see it in Broward County. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you for your letter and your emails. I appreciate it. Thank you. Lisa Jones, followed by Debbie Green. And if the next speakers can come up right behind so that we can We have a huge agenda, so Debbie, if you can, you just come up right behind Ms. Jones, that would be great, and then I'll announce the next one. Ms. Jones.
Good morning. Thank you.
Introduce yourself to everyone.
Yep, Elisa Jones from the Broward Sierra Group. I'm the vice chair. I just have a quick announcement for you all. Thank you for allowing me to be here. We have our 6th annual Broward Sierra Group Earth Day event on March 23rd at the Ann Kolb Nature Center. It's free. All are invited. We have indoor, outdoor activities and featured speakers. And this year, I'm pleased to announce that we have our first panel. Invited to this are Mayor Beam Fur, Commissioner Carol Shuham, Commissioner Melissa P. Dunn, Miami Sierra Club's Stephen Leidner and Noel Cleland, Richard Ramcharitar from Broward Clean Air, and our moderator will be Susan Steinhauser from the Climate Reality Project. The panel will be discussing the future of waste reduction in Broward County and how to manage our waste in our communities and industries, focusing on the most pressing challenges concerning waste disposal and all the alternatives that may be available that are sustainable and changes to our economies and technologies. So please spread the word. We'd love to have you there, and we're very excited to have this panel.
Great. Thanks, Ms. Jones.
Thank you.
All right, Debbie Green, followed by Eric Morset. Erica or Eric? I'm sorry, Eric. Right there, you're fantastic.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I agree with the comments earlier. Just on more, not administrative, whatever. This may be something to consider is if these are public meetings, you want to get public input. I don't know if it may be very helpful to be able to maybe speak on certain agenda items when that agenda item comes up, as many other public meetings are, because there's just 2 minutes at the start of a meeting is not enough to cover when you've got an agenda full of items. And I know that one of the items on today's agenda is the presentation of the incinerator in Copenhagen. And I think in regards to that, I don't think it's, while it sounds, lovely and when you read certain parts of it, but I'm sure we'll hear more during the presentation, but I don't know that it's not a proven, those systems and at that technology at that level, there's nothing like that, I don't believe, in the US right now. I would hope that you look to all the other processes of recycling and leaving any new waste to energy or incineration out of this master plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Okay, Mr. Morset, and then Julie Long.
Eric Morset, I'm the Vice Mayor of Pembroke Park. I have had the privilege of living in 5 different countries and see how they deal with garbage, and there are some very interesting solutions, including the one from Copenhagen, a wonderful city that I grew up in, and I can assure the audience it works. Denmark is a very environmentally conscious country, and they measure and control everything, and recycling or incineration is not about just burning things. It's also making electricity and heating houses with the waste cooling. The technology is out there. I know Singapore does the same as Copenhagen. It's popping up everywhere because landfills are not sustainable. We need to look, we're opening a process here. It's not one solution and that's going to go for the next 100 years. We're opening a process where we put in new technologies, and as those technologies develop, we embrace them and get better and better. Of course, we need to recycle. Of course, we need to get all the compostables out of our trash stream, but we cannot continue with the landfill solution, and I don't see any other solution than incineration in a modern world, unfortunately. But it should not stop us from looking at how we can reduce certain kinds of pollutants, particularly single-use plastics. They're highly problematic. There are alternatives to those products. Look at them. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Appreciate that. All right, Julie Long, and then followed by Richard Ramcharitar.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you for making the white papers available on the website. You have the difficult job of organizing this program in a society that does not even want to think about trash, much less pay for it. How to
overcome these obstacles. Our waste contains toxins. People are united in caring for their health and the health of their families and children. The American Cancer Society published the 2025 report on cancer. While survival is increasing, there are some very alarming trends in this data. The rate of cancer in young and middle-aged individuals is increasing. Cancer in young women is increasing. The rates of cancer in Native Americans and Black Americans are much higher than the white population and totally unacceptable, and I think are related to environmental problems. While it is difficult to assign causation, there is growing recognition that environmental factors are influencing these statistics. Medical societies and scientists tend to be very conservative in reporting things because they don't want to ever have to issue a retraction. And they're finally starting to say, we think the environment is contributing to this. I think even skeptics would agree that in the interest of public health, action should be taken to decrease exposure to these agents that are shown to be associated with cancer. I ask you to develop and implement as a first priority a public education program that reaches out into our school system, our senior centers, our HOAs, and appears in our media and public places. Second, consider a pay-as-you-throw policy to encourage waste reduction at a household level and change behavior, even if we can't change people's minds. This preserves individual choice and equitably charges those who generate more waste. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you very much. Mr. M. Chartar.
Good morning. I felt it necessary to get up here this morning. I'm suffering from severe vertigo. I was in Cleveland Clinic for the last day, but it's important for me to come here and start this new year off and speak to the executive committee. I want to say that Broward County should not pursue waste to energy as a solution for its waste management needs due to its significant environmental, financial, and social costs. Waste to energy facilities will negatively impact critical ecosystems like the wetlands and the Florida Everglades, including vital water resources in Water Conservation Area 3A, which is home to the Miccosukee tribe of Indians. The construction and operation of these plants would require billions of taxpayer dollars over the long term, ultimately diverting resources from more sustainable solutions. Instead, the executive committee should prioritize zero waste solutions as outlined by the Zero Waste International Alliance. Zero Waste focuses on reducing and recycling materials, offering an environmentally and economically sustainable path forward without relying on costly and harmful incineration technologies. Additionally, Broward County's 2022 resolution banning single-use plastics should be enforced rigorously, not only on county properties, but also with vendors operating at these sites. This approach will align with the county's sustainability goals, reduce waste, and protect the environment for future generations. Waste to energy is not the answer. Zero waste is the path to a more sustainable Broward County. I would like to invite each and every one of you to attend the Zero Waste Forum that we're hosting at the Ann Cove Nature Center. This will be from March 30th to April 3rd. We'll send information out to the committee so that you have an invitation to come. The other thing I would like to invite you to do is to please, each and every one of you, to take the Introduction to Zero Waste class with Zero Waste USA, January 29th, and I'll send that information out as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. M. Chartar. I hope you feel better. Be careful. All right, that closes public comment. Do I have a motion on approval of the SWA Executive Committee meetings? Motion by Member Shuham. Second by Member Bright Cruz. Any discussion on that item? Call the question and all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes. Executive Director report.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to go through this quite quickly because we need to get to the presentations and other things. Financial, I'm say Angela. You're first up. Real quick, I'll have the Cone Resnick with regards to a real quick review of the financial statements. All of you received the financial statements earlier this week. And we'll have any questions that may be available afterwards. Go ahead, Angela.
Good morning, Angela Harms with Cone Resnick. As Todd said, the financials are available. I just want to make note that they should be in, there should be a draft watermark on that. They're not final for December 31. So just so you know that. The total cash balance at the end of the year is $1,506,089 with net assets at $3,276,920. Just taking into account the recent assessment for the current year. And speaking of that assessment, we've received 4 payments. So we need to get some more payments
Right.
coming in on that. That is my report. Any questions?
All right, any questions from the members on the financial update? Mr. Storti, what's the status of the payments?
Well, I'll get out a list later. We have the 4 jurisdictions that paid already. I'll get an update out and let everybody know where we're at.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Next
Thank you,
up,
ma'am. Appreciate it.
School board, you want to go through that?
Yeah, school board liaison, per the direction of the board. By the way, let the record reflect that member Ryan, Dunn, and Horland have been here for a while. They weren't at the roll call, but they are here and present. The school board liaison, we have communicated to the chair of the school board a request from the executive committee for them to designate a liaison. I've spoken to the chair. She is going to present in the February meeting the request from this executive committee for a liaison, non-voting member to participate at each of the meetings and to participate overall in this process. Very supportive, and they're prepared to be involved. We also have a representative from one of the sustainability committees, I believe. If you can just stand and you can give everybody your name. Well, thank you for being here, and I hope we see you as well. They are prepared to engage and become a full participant, albeit not voting. Any questions on that? All right. Thanks. Team effort with Mr. Storti. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Storti.
Yes, okay, thank you. Next thing up, website. It's a constant update. We're actually working through the About Me and the update right now with the version 2.0. We'll have more information next month with regards to that update. Next item is the time extension for the SCS contract. Under agreement under Article 3, there's actually a requirement that if they need more time because of various things going on, that it has to be approved, and there's a process here today for the executive committee just to be able to do that. Daniel, you want to come up and say a couple of words with regards to the extension and the need for the extension?
All right, let me turn to Mr. Cole as well. Can you please outline the process here and whether this is an economic impact or simply a time impact?
Right. Under the agreement, under Article 3, there's certain deadlines that SCS was required to make, and if they don't meet those deadlines, they're in breach of the contract. There's a provision that allows for extensions by the authority. The agreement doesn't say that the executive director can do that on his own, so the executive committee will have to approve any extensions. If the extension is needed because of something that the authority did or outside of the control, that's normally the type of extension that would be given. If it's SCS's fault, that's a whole different story. So they will have to explain to you why they want the extension and how much of an extension they need. And then you'll need to have a majority vote to approve that extension.
All right, floor is yours, Daniel.
Okay, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, Council, Executive Director, members of the Executive Committee, thank you. At this time, we're not asking for anything other than an extension on time, as was outlined, consistent with the agreement. There were a number of delays that we believe were outside of our control, starting with the project initiation meeting or kickoff meeting. It required having quorum, so there was a 2-week delay with that. Gathering data was another consideration. And in the interest of this being a transparent and collaborative process, a number of the technical memos have been issued several times requesting feedback. We are making great progress. I will say that at the time that the contract was executed, consistent with the solicitation, there was a very tight time frame. We made certain assumptions in terms of turnaround time on review of documents, and that time frame has not been met, which we don't say with any disfavor or real concern. It's important that we have the feedback not only from the executive committee, but all members of the ILA and from the public. We are planning on having a workshop in a few weeks, and I know that that's an item that we'll be talking about. We believe, and I don't want to speak for the executive director, but in our discussions, we're all going to do better if we have a clear understanding of the technologies that we're looking at, what the trade-offs are, and that we receive policy direction in terms of what scenario or scenarios should be explored further. So again, in an effort for this to be a collaborative and inclusive process, it simply takes more time.
In addition, I think I understand, Daniel, that not just what we should consider, but that which we are taking off the table. That will expedite the processes of analysis as well. So Absolutely. Part of the workshop process will be to have that discussion. What are those things that we just feel from a policy or environmental, financial, economic, whatever the issues are, and that's going to begin to expedite the process as well.
That is correct. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Storti? And just before I turn it to anybody else, well, I'm going to ask you about how much time. Anything that you take an exception to?
No, I agree with the extension. A lot of this has to do with, and you've all heard, received numerous emails about various tasks and the responses back. And we decided to add and allow, all right, because we wanted to know the information. We wanted to hear from you. This extra time, the turnaround time with regards to the task papers are supposed to be only 5 days. We're out to almost 10 to 15 days probably for each one. That adds time to this process. So, we want to be open. We don't want, and we heard quite clear in the last couple of meetings from a member Bright Cruz that, they want that we need to provide background. We need to provide opportunity to ask questions. Hence the reason for the workshops and the number of the upcoming workshops that we'll have going forward. That all adds time. So instead of trying to just meet a time requirement and get it done by February 28th, which we could have done, but it would not have allowed for any of the interaction, feedback, training, education that we're planning over the next 2 months. So that's really what we're trying to take into account right now.
And from SES perspective, what are you looking for in terms of a time extension?
Well, I will tell you that our current schedule has us completing the work. That's both the master plan and the activities. There are 2 tasks that occur after the delivery of the final master plan. We're looking at early August. What I don't want to do, I'll leave it to you to decide. We can use that date based on the latest schedule update. I believe that there may be more workshops than we've currently contemplated, which would extend the timeline again. For clarity's sake, perhaps we should use the date that we've identified in our latest schedule update, and then let's revisit that as this project progresses.
Okay, my last question, is it imperative that today we address that extension, or are you just informing us that you'll be requesting one?
I would like to extend it today for the simple fact that it's a contract compliance matter.
Okay, Mr. Cole, you agree?
Yes, I think it's best that we do that today. So is it a 5 month, how many month extension are you asking for exactly?
That requires thinking on my feet. I will use a date of August 3rd, which is the completion date. So this is now the 7th schedule update. As we talked about at the project initiation meeting, we would be updating the schedule regularly to reflect reality. That is the date that we have today. I would suggest that we use that date and we come back prior to that date to identify any other deviations from the schedule.
Okay. Is that sufficient clarity for you? We'll have member discussion, but is that sufficient clarity?
I just want to make clear what we're extending to. It's currently February 28th and we're extending to August 3rd. Is that
correct?
Great. That's why I just wanted to make it really clear. So we're extending from February 28th to August 3rd.
Correct.
Okay. To the members. Vice Chair, do you have any?
I think we probably have to. And I think I've seen us be the cause of some of these delays. I mean, all of us, unfortunately. I think we recognize that. I also think that we're coming into the part where we're going to be having our own discussions on some very big elements of this. Trying to rush that is probably not a good idea. And I think that, today's going to be a big day, just hearing a lot of stuff. But that's just one aspect of it. There's so many other aspects that I think, to give this it's due. I think we need that because I like the idea of trying to do the workshops that are coming up. I think these are going to require a lot of us doing a lot of homework and coming up with a good plan. And I think there's a lot of stuff that hasn't even had a chance to be looked at yet. And on my mind, I'm thinking US 27 and railroad, all kind of stuff that's suddenly getting thrown into the mix a little bit. So I'm okay with that. I think you guys are doing a good job so far. I would like to know when you're still thinking of the draft. When would the draft be?
There's a lot of dependencies, but currently we're planning to deliver the draft in early April. Now, of course, that's dependent on the workshop that we have.
Okay.
And guidance that were provided by you. And I'll also share, in our contract, it identified 5 public workshops. One of them has been completed, but you may decide that you want more outreach. And right, the contract was designed to be flexible so that we can meet the needs as they evolve. So we do appreciate at least where I think the discussion is going in terms of the flexibility, because one thing that frustrates us on the consulting side, and I'm sure it frustrates you as elected officials, is we're not presupposing what the end state is, and we're not just sitting in a room doing the work. We really want this to be a collaborative process, both with the members of the ILA and with the community, so they understand why ultimately the recommendations are being made.
And I'm thinking, and I understand the need for the public outreach and all those workshops. On this end, I'm more worried about these workshops we're doing so that we get a handle on it. Because I'd rather us have a handle on it first before we go out to the public.
Understood.
I think that's, I don't want to go out there half-baked. I want us to have a pretty good idea where this thing's moving and then be able to have real good answers. To go out there half-baked is like the last thing I want to do. So
Understood.
I'm okay with it.
I know we have a number of member comments. It occurs to me, subject to the consensus of the group, it occurs to me that as we're having this discussion, it might be helpful to have the update from the master plan, which is the next agenda item before we decide on the extension. So we have all of that information. If everyone's in agreement, while they set up, I'll turn to member comments. So that may educate and energize some of that discussion. So if you want to set up wherever you were normally going to set up and make sure they have a microphone for that. In the meantime, I'll turn it to members, starting with Member Dunn.
Good morning. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I have 3 questions for consideration here. Number 1, I'm curious what the impact on the budget would be for this extension. Secondly, and I think Mayor asked that question already, but I want to be crystal clear. When would we get the first draft of the master plan? And then when would the final draft be ready to be vetted by the public? And then my final question is, with the extension, when will the public education begin? Those are my 3 questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, I'll turn it to Member Bright Cruz, and then we're on down the line. And we'll address each of those questions, Member Dunn, in this SES update. Okay.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I agree with Member Furr. I think that, what we've done so far is we've laid a lot of the groundwork, the foundation for what it is. But at the end of the day, this is a 40-year plan. This is for the next generation. And at this point, to rush it and to come up with a solution that's not optimal, I think would be doing a disservice to the whole process from beginning to end. So I think this time will be well spent. And it's really the most critical part, I believe, of the whole process, and it's what I've been hoping we would get to, and I'm excited that this is all coming together. So awesome.
Okay.
I certainly support it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with my fellow colleagues here of their concerns. As you are setting up to address our questions, my first is if you can also go into details of what you will need from us to meet that 6-month deadline, and as well as for public feedback. I don't necessarily think we only need to rely on workshops, but also a public comment period where folks can submit that virtually, and that will cut down on people coming to us versus us meeting them where they're at. So I really want us to amplify on ways for us to really meet the community where they are. So that is my emphasis. And then lastly, I want to make sure that if we go into this August deadline, that you are not going to come back and ask for an additional deadline. So to Commissioner Dunn's point, how is this going to impact our budget? And is it going to be a burden on, I believe folks have submitted their financials already. Are you going to, based on this extension, will you have to go back to those cities and say there has been an increase And so I want to avoid that. And then lastly, as we're doing the public comments or workshops, I would also encourage us doing a city tour, going to our city commissions and doing maybe a 15-minute presentation to our other colleagues, because yes, we report out, but it's best if we have someone who is actually working on the master plan come and give them an update as well. That's all from me, Mr. Chair.
We'll you keep those in line. We'll have a discussion. I know from your perspective, I think we've had this discussion, going to 31 cities wasn't really part of that budget, but we'll have to figure out how we get that done. So it's an excellent point. Member Shuham.
You can go.
We'll split it since the county's paying for all this. Member Shuham.
Thank you, Chair. I certainly understand the sentiments of my colleagues, but I, first of all, am from a contract world where someone would have presented us with an analysis of the impact of the delays that you've incurred. Does such a document exist? Where is the 6 months coming from?
So we've been presenting the project management plan updates. Some of that is included in there, and some of it is simply the duration between submitting the drafts and receiving comments. And just for example, I know that it's in the project management plan with the first major deliverable, which was the Task 2 Existing Resources White Paper. It was issued to the members of the Executive Committee on 3 separate occasions. And so you can imagine it was submitted. We waited for feedback to be received. It was incorporated. It was submitted again in the interest of making sure that we absolutely had everything right, in part because we know that we asked for a lot of data. But it was important to us to establish what the baseline conditions are. It wasn't until the final draft that was sent out that we received all the data that we.
Okay, so two concerns.
We did not receive all the data that we requested, but we had to cut it off. We had.
Okay, so I'm not questioning that there was a delay. What I'm missing is a document that says we were going to have this to you by the end of February, which, by the way, I have shared with constituents, with organizations. So excited to see it, and now I feel like I need to go back and say that's been delayed, right? What I'm missing is the impact of my 3-week delay. Is that a 3-week delay to you? That's what I'm missing. Normally, you would see some sort of an analysis.
Yeah, so we anticipated that. When we put our proposal together that was incorporated into the agreement, there were timelines that we expected from the authority and that you could expect from us. So one of the things that we asked for was consolidated feedback on all draft deliverables within 5 business days. So if you would like, we can put together a timeline of what contributed to the delay. Some of them are on our side and some of them are simply a schedule that has lags that are